If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday, January the 30th, 2024 edition of the CRCS Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and again, we thank you for tuning in to today's program. We hope that the program finds something that you can be inspired by and following the code. Now, to get in contact with this show, let me give you the number, and it is 516-453-9921. And if you have a question or a comment that you would like to say, then press the number 1 button. And when the call screener comes, when the call screener comes on, make sure you give them your name so that I can give you the proper introduction. And if you are a new caller, you do the same thing, only you tell the call screener that you are a new caller, and we have something very special for you so that you can be heard. You have to excuse me here. I have a new screen upon me, and it's making all kind of noises, and I'm getting ready to get used to this bad boy. Anyway, now, if you do not want to call in, you can have me read your text by Gmailing me, and that Gmail address is the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, MrBobby @gmail.com. I will read it, let you know that I have it, and then at a certain time, I don't know when for sure, but at a certain time, I will read it, and I will inform you and give you a notice that your mail is being read, and you can listen to that and respond to that. And lastly, you may join the chat room. And all you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com, and you want to click on where it says Programs. And once you do that, then the show menu comes up, and you want to produce Justice Show. You click on that, and the chat room becomes available to you, so you can get in there. But I will say this as a word of caution: do not ask me a question in the chat room to ask Mr. Fuller for you. That's not going to work for you today. But I will occasionally lift something that is in the chat room off of it and formulate my own question that I may ask Mr. Fuller about that, and we can go from there. Okay, I think that's it for that. Now, the book that Mr. Fuller will be talking about, you can order from this site, producejustice.com. That is producejustice.com. And I understand all the books are in. And in addition to that, there are previous podcasts that we have on there, and you can look that up and listen to those things also. And any other announcement that is on there. I think a movie list might be on there too. Okay. I believe that might be all that I have. So let me do this. Thank you, Corey from Milwaukee. Yeah, he has put his hands up. Good. Okay. Let me say this. Good morning, Mr. Fuller, and how are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
Okay, Mr. Fuller is still learning. Okay, I forgot to say let me introduce to some and present to others, but that's already done. Okay, now we have this section that we have in the program called the Thoughts and Expressions on the mind of Neely Fuller Jr. Mr. Fuller, what is on your mind that you would like to open up the program with this Tuesday, the 30th, January the 30th, 2024?
All during January, I was listening on various radio stations where I could catch it. One was a public radio station, and they were playing, I think, all day just about the speeches of Dr. Martin Luther King. And I was thinking, now everybody, because this is going into what they call Black History Month, and we just are departing from January, which in January, Dr. Martin Luther King had a birthday, if I have that correctly, and so he had a lot of recordings of his speeches. All of these speeches, that's what's on my mind, should be listened to. It's not that other people's speeches shouldn't be listened to, but since they are so many available, I didn't know, of course, being a preacher, he would make a lot of speeches, but so many are just absolutely excellent and cause me to do a lot of thinking. I hope they cause a lot of other people to do a lot of thinking. And these speeches shouldn't be just for so-called Black History Month or during the month of January of each year. They should be listened to like people listen to songs, their favorite songs. I mean, this should be almost routine. It's one speech right after another. They're all excellent. I haven't heard one in my own judgment that wasn't. And I think and the reason I give it that evaluation, in my mind, is because they are not only very, 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 very informative, but they're very inspirational. Because he keeps having this theme, for one thing, of you just keep on keeping on. People bomb your house or whatever, all like that. You just keep on keeping on in the direction that you think you're appointed or assigned to go by your Creator. Because that's what I was getting out of it. We each have an assignment. We each have, like they say in the movie Casablanca, a destiny. And we may kind of resent it, but we all have a destiny, and it's just a matter of whether or not we take it on as an assignment and blend in with it or be a vehicle for it, or we resist it and reject it and turn to something else, which means you're not doing what the process of logic says you should be doing, and which people do have that option, not doing what they should be doing. And so Dr. Martin Luther King, Reverend Martin Luther King, said that he had a destiny, and he was just determined that he was going to fulfill it to the best of his ability, the best that he could. And I think that everyone as an individual should wake up in the morning thinking about, why was I born? And keep that in mind each and every day. Why was I born? And what am I supposed to be doing now that I am born? and answer that question to yourself. You don't have to talk to anybody else. Just answer that question to yourself and then get busy doing whatever you think it is you were supposed to be doing. And hopefully it is something that produces constructive results. Because that's what in each message that I was getting from Dr. Martin Luther King, I'd only heard a few of his speeches down through the years. But during the month of January, it seemed like I was picking up a lot of his speeches, most of which I'd never heard. And I think it's a good idea if someone can get the archives of all of his speeches and whatnot, or most of them, the ones that have been picked out by somebody that I heard, just listen to them. And also, while you're doing that, many of the speeches of other people, not ruling them out, including people like Thurgood Marshall, Frederick Douglass, just any of his speeches, just speech after speech after speech, because most people don't have time to read books like I want them to read mine, but you can, while you're doing other things, listen to speeches rather than listen to other things that just happen to have the radio on. I mean, listen, just if you can gain access, do that. And that's what's on my mind this morning.
Okay.
Along with a number of other things, but I wanted to get that in there.
Wanted to get that one out. Yes, sir. Okay. All righty. 516-453-9921 is the number to call in for the CRCS, the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Let's go to the phone lines. And the person in the prefix 347, don't forget to give your name to the call screener. But right now, we are going to go to Corey in Milwaukee. Bear with me because I have a new screen in front of me. Didn't know this one was going to come up, so let's see if I can get this right. Corey, I think I got it right. Corey in Milwaukee, you're on. Good morning. Corey?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, now we can hear you, yes. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Hello? Okay. I had a quick VGQ and a question, Mr. Fuller. The VGQ is a Frederick Douglass. He said it is to build strong broken.
It's coming in broken up.
Do it about
it's coming in broken up.
That says,
Hey, Corey, you are coming in broken up. You're segmented. We can't really hear what you are saying.
Anything, deliver nothing.
Okay, Corey.
Yes.
You're coming in broken up. We can't really hear you. Mr. Fuller can't hear you, and I can't hear you either. Are you still there?
Yes.
Okay. Could you repeat your question because we couldn't hear you?
Okay. Mr. Fuller, you mentioned in your code book about not making promises, that it's better for us to not make a promise and deliver something than to promise anything and deliver nothing. I'm attempting to implement that code for myself. My question, Mr. Fuller, is when a fellow black person, fellow victim of a system of white supremacy racism, is making a promise and the results show after one or two times that they break the promise, what's the codified response when a fellow victim starts to make you a promise?
Ask them a question. All problems are solved, according to the code, by questions and answers. Ask the person, did you promise me, etc., etc., etc.? And listen, don't break into the answer. When he gives the answer, you got your answer. It's yes or no. And then if they say, yes, I did promise that. And then you ask the next question, if they didn't fulfill the promise, why did you not do what you said, promised that you were going to do? And put a question mark behind it, and then wait for the answer. And when they finish answering, that's it. And when they ask you to do something else, you'll say, well, you promised me twice before that you were going to do, etc., etc., etc. You were going to do what you said you were going to do, or whatever the promise was, and you didn't do it. So why, Mr. Jones, should you promise me that you were going to do something and then don't do it? Now, I would do that the first time out the gate. And I have been, because that's part of the code. You make that promise the first time, you're not going to get no help with what you asked me the second time, and you broke the promise without explaining to me why it happened and whatnot, and I accept that. Because you always let the person know it's not going to be a second time if you don't fulfill the promise the first time. Let them know that right up front. Otherwise, for the people who make promises that they don't keep, stop making them. Now, you can let people know you're not mad at them or anything like that, but you have to obey the code. Because people begin to say, well, hey, I can just be lazy about everything, make promises all over the place. Don't keep none of them, and that becomes their code. But that lesson has to be strict for everybody on the planet. You break that first promise, don't make it. And when you talk to the person about making the promise, they say, now, you can make a promise and don't keep it to me. But there won't be a second one if the first one isn't kept. I want you to understand that. Jim, Mary, whomever. And just get that understanding right out the gate. There won't be any, more promises accepted from you. We're still friends, and you can ask a question.
Okay.
All right. And that could be your last question. Are we still friends? That's after you tell them that. Don't break a promise.
Don't break a promise.
Promises are serious business.
Okay.
You cut your throat before you break a promise.
Okay. What was your VGQ, Corey? Because you were breaking up in the beginning. Do you still have that, or did Mr. Fuller answer your question?
Yes, my VGQ, Mr. Fuller, is in addition to what you shared this morning about listening to the speeches of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Reverend Martin Luther King. My VGQ is a quote from Frederick Douglass. He said, "It is easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men."
Okay.
And that was all, Mr. Fuller.
It is easier to do what?
It is easier to build strong children than it
build
is to repair
children.
Than it
than
is
to repair
broken men.
Broken men. That's worth remembering.
Yes.
It's thoughtful.
All righty. Thank you, Corey. Thank you very much.
Mr. Bob.
All righty. All right, let's go to New York and Darnell, I believe. Yeah, Darnell, I'm glad you called back. Good morning, and what is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
My question today is, what is the importance of question and answers?
Because we solve problems by questions and answers. That's it. If you want to solve a problem, ask a question. And keep asking questions and getting answers to the questions. Why? Because the logic of the universe says that if you want to solve a problem, ask questions. That's how all problems are solved. Questions and answers. That's what school is about. That's why we go to places that we call schools. And what do people do inside of schools? Questions and answers. Get answers to questions. That's what they're doing all day long in every school, everywhere. Outdoor schools, wherever they're being held. The whole universe is a school. You look over there across the river, and how can I get across the river? That's a question. Then you come up with an answer. I think Confucius said a quote in answer to a question about how do you learn to play the flute? And he says, you learn to play the flute by playing the flute. Question, answer. 1, 2. I think I said that over and over and over again, but I'll keep saying it because it's true.
Yes.
Yeah. Anybody can think about it, and I don't care which way you learn it so far. And if you learn that that's not true, I want to know about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll stop doing it.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. Okay. Thank you, Darnell. Thank you very much. All right. Continuing here, listen, the person in the 954 prefix, don't forget to give your name so that I can read it. And the person in the 254 prefix, please give the call screener your name so I can call you out when it's your turn. In the meantime, the contact number is 516-453-9921. just to get in contact with the show, make sure you do that and you give your information, your name to the call screener. Let's go to a Gmail. Bear with me here because this is a new screen I'm working with here. All right. Let's see here. This comes from Ray. Okay, Mr. Fuller, he says, are non-white people exhausting their time and energy striving for peace within the system of racism, white supremacy? Keep in mind that there has never been a record of peace since the establishment of the system of racism, white supremacy. Is there a way to codify chaos within the system? Well, that would be a second question. So let me go back up here to the first question. Are non-white people exhausting their time and energy striving for peace within the system of racism, white supremacy?
Are they doing it? They claim that they are. I'm non-white. That's what I'm trying to do. And I say the way to get it is to use truth, the concept of justice, and the concept of correctness equals peace. Truth plus justice plus correctness, when you put those three things together, it equals a thing called peace. Truth plus justice plus correctness. Now, what is truth? That's a question. Truth is that which is. Always find out what something is, rather than what is not. That's truth, according to the code. That's the definition of truth. Finding out what is and telling it like it is. That's an old slang thought up, I think, by black people. Tell it like it is, not like it isn't. I mean, see it for what it really is. It's not somebody's opinion of what is. What is it, really? Is that a lamp sitting on the desk, or is that a pencil? You go one or the other. They say it's a lamp. Well, tell it like it is. Don't call it a pencil. That's two different things. So truth, if you're talking about a book, did the book tell it like it is, or did the book tell it like it isn't? Because you don't want anything to be told like it isn't and try to pretend that it is. What is justice? Guaranteeing that no person is mistreated. That's the compensatory definition. And guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. And that's a made-up definition by me. I don't think it will ever be topped. I've looked in dictionaries and encyclopedias at that word justice extensively. And that's why I came up with, why come up with a compensatory definition of justice if you don't need one? But I needed one. That's why I was looking for. What is the definition of justice? If you don't know the definition of something, how do you know what you're looking for? I'm looking for justice. First of all, find out what it is. How are you going to know what you're looking for and you don't have an idea of what you're looking for? Doesn't make sense. It's not logical.
Exactly.
You say, I'm looking for something. Well, what are you looking for, Mac? Well, something. Something like what? Well, I'll find it I'll know it when I find it. Okay, well, hey, that's your answer. So I'll take your answer for what it's worth. But I'm confused. Okay?
Yes.
Truth plus justice plus correctness equals peace. Now the question was, can you have peace? I don't know, but I believe so, and I believe that I'm put here as a vehicle for producing it. And there are people who said that's impossible. And I say it can be thought of by people. It can probably be done.
Okay.
Anyhow, I'm trying to do it. And I'm going to keep trying to do it. Why? Because the alternative is eternal conflict. And I'm sick of that.
All righty. Hold it right there. We're going to take a break here. You are listening to the Counterinsurgence Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and we thank you so much. In fact, we are delighted to have you aboard. Now, to become part of the program with a question or comment, you simply dial this number, which is 516-453-9921, and press the number 1 button, and be sure to give the call screener your name so that I can give you the introduction. If you don't want to do that, you can Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, MRBOBBY @gmail.com. And if you would like to listen and join the chat room, you can do that by going to blogtalkradio.com. You want to click on where it says the programs menu, click on that, and then once you click on that, you want to go to where it says shows. And the shows that you want, or the show that you want, is the Produce Justice Show. You click on that, and then you're in the chat room, and you can follow all the rules that are available for the chat room. Okay. Let's see. Later on in the program, Mr. Fuller will be talking about his book, and you can get the book by going to producejustice.com, producejustice.com. And, yeah, that's what you could do there. Okay. All righty. Now I'm going to break the question up because he asked 3 questions here, so I'm going to break that up. And then I'm going to come back to it. So we already asked the first question. Okay, let's go back to the phone lines. Let's go to, I'll call her, I think she might be a lawyer one day. But anyway, Nicolette. We're going to come to you and then maybe Tariq. But let's go to Nicolette. Nicolette, thank you for calling back. Let me see if I can get you on here. Wait a minute. Here we go. New screen. Okay, Nicolette, good morning. And what is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Okay, good morning, Mr. Fuller. Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Okay, I have a statement and then a question. I'm glad that he talked about listening to old audio or speeches of old leaders that was fighting racism then, and then with the new knowledge of Dr. Wilson and himself of how to apply that, I'm glad that I do that often and get a lot of results where I listen to, even outside of Black History, listen to Otto so they can give me inspiration or give me a clue to write, to speak in front of people. So I'm grateful for that. And then Mr. Fuller, my question is, how do we fight within the judicial system to get a result? Do we just continue to write and show up to them Senate floors, or do you think it's another way that we can fight within the judicial system?
By finding out, first of all, what a problem is. I mean, we have problems of all kinds. So you find out the source of the problem. And the way to do that, like you solve all problems, I'm going to keep saying it for 1,000,000 times, find out, first of all, whom best to ask. Whomever you hear the go-to person or whatever, the go-to material, the book or whatever, and ask how to solve this problem. So you don't have to use a lot of fancy words and all like that, and words that get in the way, that, as the old slang says. Just find out who can answer your questions when you have a problem. That's the first thing you want to know. And that's the first question you want to ask. Who is the best person to go to solve this problem that I have? You got the problem, so you know about that. Like, if you got a sore foot, who's the best foot doctor that you know that I have access to? And if somebody tells, that's a question. And if somebody tells you, that's what you do. It's just pure logic. And you keep doing it. Why? Because there's no place else to go but to someone who knows what to do about your problem. And if you find somebody else, go to that person. And if you find somebody else, go to that person. And if you find somebody else, go to that person. But you ask, the fastest way to do it, rather than sit and try to guess, is to ask somebody who knows. Somebody who says, I went to that foot doctor. I had the same problem you had. And that foot doctor cured my problem, eliminated my problem. So I recommend that you go to him or her. And people will tell you that. And if you go and it doesn't happen, then you do what? Under the law of compensation. Ask somebody else, or go back to that person you originally talked to and say, well, they cured you, but they didn't cure me. What do you think happened? That's a question. Questions and answers. That's all. Otherwise, you can sit and look at your sore foot forever until you finally get old and fall over and die. And you can either ask questions of people who can take care of your problem, or you don't. Bottom line. If you figure out a way to do it yourself, do it yourself. Which is what the first thing for you to do in the first place. Try to figure out what to do yourself.
Mm-hmm. Excuse me. All right, thank you.
And you keep on. That's another thing. But you don't keep on knocking on the same door when there's another door to knock on. Well, you might get a better answer than the door you have been knocking on. But it's all questions and answers. And this is how you get anything done, and be persistent. But like I said, you don't keep on knocking on one door unless that's the only door where you, when it opens, can take care of your problem. Now, if they say that's the only door, that's the only door. So you be persistent in your knocking until that door is open.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Nicolette. Thank you very much. I don't have to tell you to keep calling because you do that consistently. Thank you very much. Mr. Fuller, before we go back to the phone, hang on, Tariq. You gave, and many, many times you have given a compensatory definition of justice, which I have adopted. I like that very much. And I say that in that I was listening to a program. I'm not going to call the person's name out because everybody knows this person's name. And you have been on this person's show, many, many times. But anyway, there was a discussion going on this past Sunday, and I noticed that all the questions that people were asking, they were asking legitimate questions, but none of them, and there were problems. None of them were, where they were solving the problems. They were tremendous issues and legitimate issues. But it brought me back to this statement that you have made several times that about justice. And what is that statement, just for those who are newly listening, when you gave the compensatory definition of justice? What did you say? I want everybody to hear what you said concerning that.
Justice, the compensatory definition for justice, something I made up. You won't find it in any dictionary. I made it up. Which you can do. Make up definitions for words. Words are nothing but tools. Mm-hmm. It's like a pair of pliers or any kind of tool, a fork, a knife. These are tools. Words are nothing but tools. Mm-hmm. Tools to do what? Tools to get a job done that you want done.
Yes, sir.
So, definition of justice, according to Neely Fuller. 2 parts to the definition. Part 1, guaranteeing that no person is mistreated. Part 2, guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. Underline constructive.
Yes.
That's it.
That's it. Okay.
Now, when other people use the word justice, you can just simply do something that will stun most people. Ask a question. The question is, when they use the word justice, because I do it, and I see people get stumped.
Yeah.
I say, what is justice by definition?
Okay.
They're all over the place.
All over the place. Okay. Now,
and everybody gets more and more confused.
Yes, sir. Now,
so how do you know when you got it? You're asking for something. Oh, we got to have justice. We got to have. Do you know what you're asking for? Ask that nobody be mistreated. Try that. Now, everybody knows what mistreatment is.
Exactly.
Babies know what mistreatment is. That's why they yell out so much.
Yes,
okay?
Sir.
All right. And everybody knows when they need help and they ain't getting it.
Okay. Now, I had you state that because all the questions that I listened to, and they were legitimate questions that people were asking, but what it came to was that there was the absence of justice. You know, they kept saying, well, we ought to get together, we ought to have a meeting and all that kind of thing. And I kept hearing that, okay, a meeting to do what? I mean, what was going to be the result of this? What are you going to do? Somebody mentioned about having a code. Okay, good. But what are you going to do? And then it brought me back to justice. Unless there is justice, and I like the compensatory one, no matter what it is, you're going to be sitting in there just doing nothing, really. What is the result of that? You're going to be meeting on a meeting. I see. Well, we're going to meet next week.
Mm-hmm.
And and this person, you know this person very well, and the people in the room know you too. Also, But they didn't. I don't think that they could understand that the absence and all the problems that they were having, or mentioned that there was no justice. And then I was sort of insulted when they used the word fair. I said, oh, boy, they really are going to be confused now, because there's no such thing as fair. It's just a concept. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out, that for all of us, if there's not justice, particularly compensatory justice, then you're going to be going around in a circle, because we're looking for critical results. And that's where the code came in. You have to follow a code, which you have mentioned in the book, about what to do and what not to do. Could you speak about that before we go to Brother Talib, about the book, about the code in the book?
Well, that's what we're talking about now.
Yes.
We don't have a code, meaning even how a code covers, what is a code for? Get something done. Not just talk about getting something done, but that's a part of it. But actually getting it done.
Mm-hmm.
But you use words, first of all, to describe what it is you're trying to get done, so that you don't keep going around in that Negro circle. Because the white supremacists have trained us very well to just go here, go there, go here, go there, say this, say that, and wind up always right where we started from.
Yes.
And we stand there scratching our heads, wonder how that happened. It's because we've been trained. Like we go through, that's why they call the circus a circus. You go around in a circle. That's what the animals do. One elephant gets the other elephant's tail, and they go around in a circle. And that's what the white supremacists do with black people for entertainment. Watch the black people go around in a big circle. It'll be a small circle, then a bigger circle, and then a bigger circle, and then a smaller circle, and then repeat the process over and over again, decade after decade, 100 years after 100 years. They say, they don't realize, and they're saying, we ain't going nowhere. Well, duh. Have you noticed you're going in a circle? Why is that? So codification means break out of that circle. Start heading in a straight line to a goal that's worthy of going to. But you got to know what the goal is, what it looks like. Guaranteeing that no person is mistreated.
Yes.
Guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. Now, you know when you're getting help and when you're not. For that sore foot, you want to guarantee, hey, my foot hurts. Y'all can talk all you want to. Y'all can plan this and plan that, but my foot is still hurting. Now, when my foot stops hurting, then I'll say, whatever you did worked, and we need to keep doing it if you don't want a sore foot. That's it. Rather than that circle, like Mr. Bobby just described, I figured that out a long time ago. That's why I started writing the code. I say you do what works, and you do it with rocket ship time. I mean, you move with what works. Find out what works and make it work, because it does work. What works, works. What doesn't work, doesn't work, and don't keep trying to do what doesn't work, which is how we are trained. Well, we will have another meeting, and I figured it out a long time ago because I participated in it. Well, what's the plan? The plan is to have another meeting to make a plan. And then you go to another meeting. You've probably done it. Now, why are we here? Well, we're here to make a plan. Okay, so after 6 hours, the plan is made. Okay, what's the plan? The plan is to have another meeting about making another plan.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we actually do. That's what we do over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Plan to have a plan. And what is the plan? To have a plan.
Yes, sir. And we can get the book
over and over. You can get the book by going to producejustice.com. And that's a code for solving problems.
Right. Because now
the code is the plan. And the plan is you solve problems by doing what? Asking questions and getting answers to questions. That's the plan.
Yeah.
And the code asks questions and answers the questions. Like, what is an American? Has anybody ever asked that question? I've heard people ask it, but people just brush right past it like the question wasn't asked.
They do.
Do that. When you're at the next meeting that you go to and somebody mentions American, hold up your hand, and just like you do on this program, and, if you want permission to ask the question, if you have a question, sir, ma'am, what's an American?
Right.
You keep hearing people say Americans do this, Americans do that. Americans always mess black people up. What's an American?
Mm-hmm. Yes, because...
when do you know that you're looking at an American?
Mm-hmm.
What's the description of an American? Well, American is a citizen of America. What's a citizen of America? Well, a person that does this and does that. Just keep asking questions, or you'll get the answers, and you'll find out whether or not these answers are not leading you into another circle.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I like the book, because the meeting concluded, reminded me of this song, which a lot of people have heard of. It's an old song, but it was called, or is called, Talking Loud But Saying Nothing.
Oh, yeah, that's an old slang. Black people come up with a new slang about every 16 months. That's the first time I heard that was from a black person.
Yeah.
Talking loud, saying nothing.
Saying nothing. Because they felt good after they said they were going to have a meeting. They felt good because they were going to have another meeting. I just said, I said, wow.
Yes. But everybody comes out high-fiving.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody, Did you hear so-and-so when he took the floor? Man, he said some... Well, what did he say? Man, he said something, man, that had everybody clapping and stomping their feet. Okay, well, so what did he say? I don't remember exactly what it was, man, but he brought everybody to their feet.
Yes.
Oh, everybody's to their feet. Mm-hmm. Was that the plan, for everybody to come and wind up on their feet? Yeah, they say, man, hey, I mean, the stuff that he was talking, man, I'm telling you, it was full. You should have heard it. Okay, well, what was the meeting for? The meeting was how to plan to solve this problem over in the west side. Well, did y'all come up with the plan for solving it? Did everybody was handed a book, for solving that west side problem? No. Well, what did you find they do when the meeting closed? Well, we plan to have another meeting.
That's exactly what they did. That's exactly what they did.
Man, I've seen it happen a million times. Mm-hmm. But everybody was brought to the floor by what he said.
Like I said, talking loud and saying nothing. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Fuller. Thank you so much. Okay, Tariq, get ready. We're going to go up to the yo, and my man Tariq. Let me see if I can get it in here, Tariq. Yeah, there you go. New screen. Tariq, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller. Hope everybody's well today. Okay, real quick. I think I might have mentioned it before, but Mr. Bobby, you may know where it is. I know Mr. Fuller always talks about the movie The Shawshank Redemption. If anybody want to see that reformatory, it's right in Mansfield, Ohio. It's an actual place. It's right off of Route 71. It's kind of in between Mansfield and Columbus. Anyway, another thing, Mr. Fuller, it's kind of funny you say that, Mr. Bobby. People talking loud and saying nothing. What does your favorite politician always say? Well, I can't get it done now, but if you vote for me, I'll get it done when I get back in office. But anyway, Mr. Fuller, I got a question for you real quick. I was in the military, and so were you. And there was a saying that people, and I've even heard some civilians say, I'm not sure where it originated from, but I hear people say, do as I say, not as I do. Now, when I heard somebody tell me that for the first time, one of my supervisors in the Navy, I said, well, I didn't hear you say anything, and what is it that you want me to do? Now, Mr. Fuller, was that saying around when you were in the military? And if it was, how did you respond? And have a good day, and thank you for the call, Mr. Bobby.
Yes, sir.
No, yes, I was in the military, but what was the question?
The question was, when I was in the military, there was a saying that people used to say, well, I heard a few people say, I've even heard some civilians say it, but I don't know where it originated from. The saying was, if you would ask the question, especially the military guys, if you were a junior military, I never said it when I became a supervisor, but they would say, do as I say, not as I do. Now, I would always say, well, I didn't hear you say anything, and what is it that you've done that you want me to do? And I was asking you, Mr. Fuller, if that saying was in the military when you were in, how did you respond? Or how would you respond if somebody said that to you?
Oh, I've heard that. Yes, just like you said. I've heard that. Do what I say, not as I do. Well, the reason I didn't ask a question, that's how I responded, is because I didn't have a question. That he was told, making a suggestion or giving an order, and I was just told to obey the orders. That the military, the first thing, Corporal Blankenship, Camp Chaffee, Arkansas. I remember these are his words. He said, the first thing I want you guys to know is the Army is absolute dictatorship. Get that straight in your mind right now. So from then on, I was listening and half listening to just about everything I heard. Because when I was told to do something, I knew I'd better do it. Because Corporal Blankenship would always and first thing out of his mouth is that the Army was dictatorship. That we don't have democracy here. Mm-hmm. I mean, and I'm thinking, I just took an oath to uphold the Constitution. And now he's contradicting. But see, I didn't say anything because he let it out. This is the Army. We dictate here. There is no democracy here. Go outside that gate, then that's a different world.
Different world.
And my first day in the Army, they proved that what they were saying was true. My first day, I wanted to head out that gate. I had enough that first day. I mean, it doesn't take long. Anybody who's ever been in the military knows they hit you with everything that first day.
Yeah,
when you step off that bus, you'll think you are in hell. By the end of that day, you will want to go anywhere other than where you are. Because that's part of the training.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right off of that, the minute your foot hits that ground, they let you know that you're in a different world.
Yes, sir.
If the Army is anything like the one I was in.
Yes, sir.
I mean, within about 15 minutes, you'll say, what in the world am I into? You haven't been there for 15 minutes by the clock. You can time it.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll think that you're in a whole nother world altogether, like you just open your eyes and you're on another planet.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. All right. Hey, Tariq, before I let you go, there was two families up in Youngstown or the Youngstown area that I thought did a good job, and you probably know them very well. James Traficant, I liked him as a politician. I didn't like what they did to him, but it looked like he was fighting for the people. And the Bartolo family used to be the owner of the San Francisco 49ers. I know personally that he did some things for a few black people. I don't know if he was a politician or not, but he was used to be owner of the San Francisco 49ers. They did some things up there. Anyway, thank you for your call, Tariq. And I don't have to tell you nothing.
Yeah, Trafficking was real good.
I liked him. I didn't like what
was real good. And the Bartlows, they actually still own the 49ers.
That's it.
Yeah, my dad, you did a lot of work with them when they were building their malls.
Yeah, they did.
He's a good guy. Yeah, Trafficking, they railroaded him because he told the truth too much. So.
Yes, they did. All right, thank you, my brother. Thank you, my brother.
All right, have a good day.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. And Mr. Fuller, before we go into the second hour, I was going to say there's a movie, I don't know if it's on the list, but Full Metal Jacket. The first 30 minutes showed what it was like to be in boot camp, as you said, stepping off that bus. Oh, yeah. Getting that haircut? Yes, sir. Oh, yes, sir. That was a good, I don't know how many have seen that movie, but it was quite a movie. Anyway, yeah, you seen it? Okay. What did you think of it when you saw it?
It's pretty accurate.
Yes, pretty accurate. Full Metal Jacket, yes, sir. Okay, that concludes the first hour. We're a little bit over, but thank you for all that have listened to the first hour. We'll try to do better here in the second hour, which will commence in just a few seconds. So thank you, Mr. Fuller, and the second hour of the Counter Racist Code Show will commence in 5 seconds. All right, thank you, and welcome to the second hour of the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. Now, to get in contact with this show, and we want you to, all you have to do is dial 516-453-9921. And if you have a question or comment, just press the number 1 button, and you can be heard. You can ask your question. Now, if you are a first-time caller, be sure to tell the call screener that you are the first-time caller, and we have something special set up for you so that you can call in, and you will be heard. You can also, if you don't want to speak over the phone, you can Gmail me. That is at this Gmail address, the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, MRBOBBY, @gmail.com. And I will get it and read it when we have the appropriate time to read it. It is not in some sequential order. It just goes by the flow of the program. But it will be read, and I will let you know. And lastly, you can also join the chat room. And all you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com. And you want to make sure when you get that to click on where it says programs. Then in the program menu, you click on that, and then the shows become available, and the show you want is the Produce Justice Show. Produce Justice Show. You get in there, and then you're able to get into the chat room and join the chatters. And occasionally I will lift something from the chat. but do not use the chat room to ask me a question for the show, because that's what the Gmail and that is what the number is, which is, again, 516-453-9921. That's the number you call in to get in. Okay. Mr. Fuller talked about his book, and he will do that again. But if he doesn't, which I know he will, you can go to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com, and that's where you order the books, and the shows are on there too. For past shows and other information is on there. Excuse me. Okay, Baron might have a new screen, and yes, Mr. Bobby is making all kind of mistakes today trying to get better. Okay, Gmail here, continuing from the first hour of the Gmail. Question is this, Mr. Fuller. He says, Ray says this: is there a way to codify chaos within the system of racism and white supremacy and reserve the polarity against the white supremacist? Is there a way to codify chaos within the system of white supremacy?
Okay. Yes, that's what we're doing right now. Talking about a code. Like the definition of justice. That's a code. That is getting rid of chaos. That's the definition that's very clear for the word justice. We talk about justice all the time, but nobody talks about what it is, what it looks like on a day-to-day basis. On a job, what does justice look like? On a job, you can do that practically. If you take the dictionary definition, it's all over the place. But if you take that definition that I say is the codified definition, you can measure it on your job today. Because I do it. I was doing it when I was working, rather, on a job. I said, wait a minute. I use the code. I mean, that's what it's supposed to be. It's a utility, something you can do. Something you can do as an individual person without looking over your shoulder and checking with anybody. You say, wait a minute, is this the just thing to do? That's a question. Are we here in a system of justice in this workplace or not? And somebody will say, well, what do you mean by justice for? Like people will ask. That's a question. Questions have answers. No such thing as a question without an answer. So I gave them a codified answer. I did it all the time. It used to annoy people, but people had to shake their head and say, there ain't no way to squirm around it, man. Fuller ain't going to leave you no breathing room. That word got around. But I wasn't always that way. I looked at the way everybody was going about doing things. I said, nobody is giving the definition of words. They're just all over the place. And when somebody tells you something, you don't know what all these words mean. Every word means something. I want to know if you have to spend 2,000 years just working with one word. Hey, don't give me that word, and I don't know what you're saying. See, that brings about chaos that we keep talking about. You've got to get rid of the chaos. And the way to get rid of chaos is to know exactly what a word means in action. See, so I would ask a question on the job. I've been on jobs. I say, is this a just thing to do? Is this helping to produce justice? And then I would ask another question after they had answered the first one, because you never move to the second one until, see, that's a part of the code. Don't move to the second question without first getting an answer to the first one. Otherwise, you're going to have chaos, which is what you always had anyway. See, that's something that probably the people listening right now probably never heard before in their entire existence. Never move to the second question until the first question has been answered.
Yes.
Otherwise, why? See, because you have chaos when you do that. See, the reason you got all this confusion in the second question is because you didn't answer the first one. And the first one is connected with the second one. That's why it's the second one. 1, 2. That's logic. See, everything in codification is supposed to be universal logic, available to everybody. We just haven't been using it.
Yes,
now,
sir.
Logically speaking, I have a question. Did I answer that question?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And the people in the chat room, thank you. Be good one for your response. I did look it up, and your information was correct. And that's the one thing that we learned, Mr. Fuller, is to check out the information from different sources and get that information, in producing justice. Because as you have stated all throughout the programs that I've been associated with you, you're looking for a constructive result, critical result. It's just got to be that way. Not only that, but what we're talking about is something that you have to live daily. It's not just a talk show or a questionnaire. You got to live this thing daily with all the struggles that happen up and down. You have to live this thing, or else you have nothing. You have nothing.
Minute by minute.
Minute by minute, yes, sir.
Everything's got to be codified. That's another thing that's in the code itself. Codify everything. Meaning what? Have a set way of saying and doing every move that you make. Every move. Try to get it right down to that kind of science.
Yes, sir.
Because that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about pure science, cause and effect, the laws of the universe.
Okay, and finishing up on Ray's question, because it was in 3 parts and you've already answered part 1 and 2. This is part 3. He says, is there any constructive value in ignoring the self-imposed authority of the white supremacist in such a way that will force them to produce justice or kill every non-white person?
Yes, that's what the code does. It forces white people to make a decision. And the decision is going to be, we're going to keep doing what we're doing, supporting the concept and the practice of the system of white supremacy, or we're going to have justice. And white supremacy, the final act would be if they decide, well, we're not going to have no justice, because that's opposed to white supremacy. So what we'll have to do is kill all these black people. And so that's a decision they'll have to make. Because we should be determined that we're just not going to put up with the system of white supremacy forever. We are intending to replace it with something better. And what's more efficient and more better than the system, the biggest system of mistreatment on a sophisticated scale? The system of white supremacy is the biggest. It's all kinds of mistreatment, but mistreating people on the basis of what color they were born with shouldn't exist. Should never have existed. That's one of the worst reasons to mistreat somebody than you can come up with. It could have been other things, and it has been other things. But that turned out to be the worst one because it turned out to be the most powerful one.
Mm-hmm.
It motivates people to do things that shouldn't be done all over the world all day long. It's a world problem.
Yes.
And you have to get rid of it everywhere in the world because it's like a cancer and it moves fast. That's another thing. There have been all kinds of mistreatment. That's why the code says we keep talking about reparations for slavery. That's incorrect. It's all kinds of slavery that's been handed down. Black people have had slaves in Africa.
Still do.
One tribe conquers another. The so-called indigenous people, Indians, fought all the time and took people into slavery. They might have another name for it, but that's what it was. You kidnap somebody, that, make off with the women and children, that's slavery. So you don't want reparations for slavery. You want reparations for the system of white supremacy. That's right. Absolutely. In your face. That's in your face. That's, now, white supremacy is the biggest form of slavery, so call it by its biggest name. That's logical. When you say slavery, that just takes in just too much of everything. Everybody lines up. Say, yeah, my grandfather was a slave, my grandfather, the guy that just got off the boat. Say, yeah, I'm from an Indian tribe in Peru. Yeah, going back 1,000 years, yeah, they had slaves. Yeah. I want reparations. I mean, everybody starts standing up and saying that. But when you say, I want reparations for the system of white supremacy, that's pretty much in your face. That's very specific. White supremacy is just the worst form of slavery. It's just not any kind of slavery. Okay? So you explain that. That's a codified way of talking. We haven't learned how to talk yet. We're taking baby steps, babbling. But when you're talking in a codified manner, if you try it and see if it works, it'll work. Or it ain't got no business being a code. That's how you know it's code. It works.
It works.
You try it, it works. But people who listen to this program won't even try it. We talk about it like blaming America for anything. We still do it. People who call in on this program, because I've heard people call in on this program and do it, and these are people who have called before, and blame America for anything. And the code says that's impossible to blame America for anything for that is incorrect, anything wrong. It's impossible for you to do that and be telling the truth. Even why? Because Americans don't exist, never have existed. Why? Because Americans practice justice. That's why. That's the compensatory definition. First of all, first characteristic of America is that you practice justice. And nobody practices justice in a world dominated by white supremacy. That's impossible. Can't be done by anybody. So Americans don't exist yet. We're trying to bring Americans into existence, or we should be trying, and Africans and Asians, because none of the three have ever existed. They are ideas. Africa is an idea. Asia is an idea. America is an idea. They have never existed in recorded history. Why? Because all three of those people, and we're talking about people here, are people who practice justice.
Practice justice.
And like I said, the evidence shows, the record shows, nobody has ever practiced justice.
All righty.
So these ideas are not a reality. They're just words.
Words. Okay. Before I get to Corey, this from the Gmails. I'm not supposed to mention the name, but it says, "Hi, Mr. Fuller. I want to know how a white person is categorized versus someone that's non-white. The reason I'm asking is that in the concept of America's white person, of America, a white person is anyone with pale skin from Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa, compared with a black person being someone with color from Africa or the Caribbean. How is a white person identified? Thank you."
A white person is identified as a white person by the white supremacists. That's the codified answer. If a white supremacist says that a person is white, that person is white. Why? Because they got the muscle. They said, what did I say? I'm a white supremacist. I'm the most powerful vehicle on this planet among people that's in the form of a person. The most powerful. Nobody is more powerful than me in the form of a person on planet Earth in the year 2024. And when you look around, I see that white person who makes that remark is telling the truth. So what I say goes. And if I say somebody is white, they're white. I read an article, and I've said this before, in Holiday magazine in 1960. I remember. Anybody can get an old copy of a Holiday. I don't remember the month. But I remember it as being 1960. I read in Holiday magazine. I turned the page, and there was a member of the Watusi tribe in Africa, a large page in color showing a tall black male person. And he was tall and he was black. And up under the picture, because the picture took up almost a whole page, and he was just sitting now looking, at the camera like he's getting his picture taken. Tall, black, and the writing said he was Watusi. And he was from a tribe by that name, the Watusis. And that he was Caucasian. And I looked up the word Caucasian for the umpteenth time. And Caucasian was kind of vague, but it also says usually refers to a white person. But they say the Watusi, even though they are black, they are really white because they have Caucasoid traits, whatever that means. So I was confused, and about that particular photograph in Holiday magazine, I'm confused to this day, except to know, did a white supremacist say this, or just a white man or a white woman who's not a white supremacist? Because it's a white supremacist who said that the Watusi are basically white, even though they are black. When you look at their skin color, they are black. Mm-hmm. They're really white. Why? Because the white supremacist said so. Now that's one you can check on yourself.
Okay.
Go to the Library of Congress or wherever, get old holiday. Probably you'll find dozens of books that say that or something similar to it. Then you ask the logical question, who said it?
Right.
But if a white supremacist said it, who's going to overrule them? Nobody never asked. Since the beginning of white supremacy, except another white supremacist. The white supremacists overrule each other all the time. They fight among themselves. They kill each other.
Yeah.
They write murder books all the time about killing each other because it's a sport. Killing is fun, and they teach black people that nonsense.
Yeah.
Killing is not fun.
Not fun at
but
all.
But we have been taught that it's fun, and everybody is on board with that. That's why we black people do so much of it. Young black people. That's one of the first things we learn. How much fun. One of the first things I wanted for Christmas, talking about the birth of Jesus, I wanted a gun. Where did I get that from? Was I born thinking that? See, the code is about covering everything. The main thing is finding the truth.
Finding the truth. All right, let's break it right here. You're listening to the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and we thank you for doing that. To get in contact with the show in the last remaining moments, just call this number, 516-453-9921. You can listen to the show or press the number 1 button if you have a question or a comment. You can do that. First-time callers, make sure you give the call screener your name so that I can give you a proper introduction without butchering your name too much. You can also do this. You can also Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, MRBOBBY @gmail.com, and I will read your question to Mr. Fuller. You can do that. Or you can join the chat room by going to blogtalkradio.com. You click on the programs menu, and after you get that, then a list of shows will come up, the show menu. Then you want to get the Produce Justice show, click on that, and then the chat room is available for you to get in there. And there's some good chats going on in the chat room. A lot of information. Research that information. Matter of fact, research everything because you need to know what you're doing and not what to do and what not to do. Yeah, that's important. Okay, let's see here. Books. You can go to producejustice.com to get all the books and materials and the latest that Mr. Fuller is doing or past shows. And I think there might be or could be, or I know that we have done this. He does a show on the Carl Nelson show, an interview. They usually have that up, and you can get that, or we have it up, or you can listen to the show. I don't know if he's scheduled to do that, no, but they will let us know. Anyway, all the good information on there, producejustice.com, and that's where you go and get the books. Okay, and don't forget, thank you, David in Dayton, the person in the 612 prefix, don't forget to give your name to the call screener. Okay, let's go to the phone lines, and Corey. Let me see if I can get you in here, Corey. Forgive me, everybody. I have a new screen, and I'm working with it, I'll tell you that. Okay, Corey, here we go for a second slice of the action. Go ahead.
Greetings again, Mr. Bobby and Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, you mentioned that the white supremacists, they're the ones who dictate and even give the option, like who's white, who's non-white. What's the codified response or conversation, or should I have one, if an associate who is non-white says they're non-white but has accepted a classification of white when they came to this country? Should there be a codified conversation to have with this person in terms of producing?
Yes, I kind of broke into your question.
No, that's okay.
Go ahead, Corey. Ask that again there, Corey.
So, in trying to be the most just, and you mentioned the workplace, this is an associate in a workplace setting. In my attempts to produce justice in my everyday action, what I'm doing, what I'm saying, this has come up. This racial classification has come up. And I feel that it's getting in the way of producing justice because it's a lie that produces confusion. What's a codified way to address a fellow victim of racism who has chosen this false racial classification?
The compensatory code says what? It says truth plus justice plus correctness, meaning doing the correct thing, the most constructive thing, that's what correctness means, equals peace. So in order to have peace, you first of all have truth. So what did you want to find out the truth is? You want to find out the truth of the person's classification? Is the person white or non-white? Is that the truth you're searching for?
Yes. Well, the
so
individual...
how is this individual classified on paper? I'm not talking about rumors.
On paper, they're classified as white.
If the person is classified as white, they're white. Because, see, the white supremacists, presumably, or a mistake was made, and the white supremacists said, this person is not white. But see, if the white supremacists put that on paper that the person is white, they're white. Why? Because nobody has the muscle to say that the person isn't. And so that's the next question you ask. Does anybody have the muscle to overrule this white person who is a white supremacist? Because that's who that white person would have to be, not to be overruled. You'd have to be a white supremacist, he or she. Now, they are not going to be overruled by another person on this planet. Except another white person who will say, well, hey, that was a mistake. That guy, if he's been telling people he's white, he's not white. Because I say he's not white. Then it's an argument between two white supremacists. And whomever wins that argument between two white supremacists, that will be the last word. But if white people in general and white supremacists in particular say that that black person who is light-skinned is white, he or she is white. That's it. This is the system of white supremacy. It ain't not the one system, not the one government on the planet. So what that government says, that's it. There's no American government, no African government, no Asian government. There's only the government of white supremacy, and it's called the system of white supremacy in big capital letters. Truth be told.
Okay. According to the code, yes.
Yeah, so you have to talk to that person like they're white. Why? Because the white supremacists say that they're white. Now, who has the muscle to say, hey, the white supremacists did that yesterday, but it's a new day today? And I say that that person is non-white. And the white supremacists, then, knowing how they are, they say, well, it's Shane time now. Shane and Wilson. In other words, prove it.
All righty.
Non-white people haven't proven anything against the white supremacists yet that the white supremacists disagreed with. Mm-hmm. When they disagree with something, there's nobody to go to.
Nobody.
So far.
All righty. Thank you again, Corey, for your call. Let's go to David in Dayton. Bear with me, David, because I'm working with a new screen here. Okay,
can you hear me, Mr. Bobby?
David?
This is Bobby.
Did I get you, David?
Can you hear me?
David in Dayton?
Yeah, this is David in Dayton.
Yeah, go ahead.
Job.
Yeah, I got you now.
Good job, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller. The question I wanted to ask real quick here was this lawsuit that Mr. Fuller was speaking of about the system of white supremacy. Now, you know, these are system of white supremacy rules. And the thing would be, you know, they got a thing called like a cause of action, but the thing would be like how will white supremacy affect you, the individual, and you know, and some things are, what is a case study of it? And that's just my question about how would you kind of bring something like that? I mean, would it be something like just something out here, like in my instance, like I didn't call the police 30 times here in Dayton, Ohio, until where they got tired of me making reports and getting reports. I'm like, well, something going on here, and I'm going to leave it as that.
And your question is, what now?
My question is, how have white supremacy affected you? Using it as like a cause of action, because the reason why I'm saying that, because civil rights ain't nothing. They say you a citizen, but I don't know what that means.
Well, the way to find out what it means is find out who coined the term. Look it up first. There are dictionaries that are supposed to explain what words mean. Start there. Start with the dictionary. Just pull the dictionary off the shelf. If you're anywhere near one, or you can get one, or you see one, and then see, look under C's civil rights, and see what it says, and see if it makes sense to you. And if it doesn't, start asking people questions. And the people who should answer the question should be the people who invented the term. Words are invented by somebody. You find out, if you want the best answer to what a word means, ask the person or persons who invented the word. That's the best source. I don't know what civil rights mean either. All rights are supposed to be civil, or how can they be rights?
Yeah.
See, that's another thing about words, according to the code. Pay attention. Now, those words are just handed me just now. And I don't know what they mean. Why? Because I'm following the logic. I'm following the codified way of thinking. What does that mean? What is, first of all, there's two words there, civil and rights. Now, I might spend 60 days and 60 nights dealing with just the first word, civil. What do you mean by civil? And then spend the next 40 months talking about rights. What is a right? How did a right become a right? Who said that a right is a right? What's the different kind of descriptions of a right? And then you put the word civil in front of it and say civil rights. Then I just asked a question just now on the air with the words you just gave me. That's codified thinking. What is civil and what is a right? And when you put the two together, what is civil rights? So if a person says something about civil rights, ask that question. Say, wait a minute, before we get too far. I don't know what you're talking about when you say civil rights. So will you explain to me what a civil right is, and after you answer that, explain to me what an uncivil right is, if there is such a word.
If there is such a word, yeah. All righty. All right, David from Dayton, thank you very much. Let's go to Minnesota and Ebony. Ebony, get ready. I'm going to see if I can get you in here. Okay, let's see here. It's buffering here. Okay, Ebony, got you on here. Good morning.
Good day, everyone. Dr. Fuller, Mr. Bobby. I grew up in Chicago around more of a word-of-mouth culture, and I never heard after MLK, Martin Luther King, was assassinated, that his mother was shot playing in Oregon at church. And so when I go down and I watch these movies with my sisters and whatnot, and I hear them call him names and whatnot, and I'm wondering why would his estate allow, like in films when they talk about him, because I look at it a certain way, and I don't want to share what I really feel. But why didn't they have them omit stuff like that, and like calling him a womanizer, and it's a kinder way to say it? Why didn't they sue them for slander? I mean, I didn't hear about that until 2011, after I read this book, Conspiracy to Destroy Black Women, which was written in 2008. I read this in 2011, then I started hearing these things about, so I just want to know why would that be allowed?
Why would what be allowed?
To call Martin Luther King out of his name, call him a womanizer in different ways, and I've seen it on different formats, putting snitch above his picture and things like that, and it's nothing funny to me about that. And why do they get clearance for it?
They meaning who?
Because
the
if they can sue them for
it?
slander, the estate. No, who would let them say that without suing them or having to omit?
Well, you're asking these questions, and so you find out from the people who are doing whatever they're doing.
Right.
But the code says never call anybody a name except give them a title, except the
Correct.
names and titles they should give themselves. But that's the code talking. But now people, everybody has that type of freedom. People tell me all the time, Fuller, I ain't paying no attention to your code. I don't need it. And so I say, that's the way the code's supposed to work. You use it if you need it. Okay? Like you use any tool. The code is just a tool for getting things done. It works for me. Now, if other people don't want to do that, that's up to them. So it's what the code says about name calling, never call anybody a name. I don't care how many names they call you, but never call any white people, black people, any kind of people. Never call anybody any kind of name except the names that they want to be called. That's basic in the code. Under any circumstance, never do you call any, but that's the code. Now, a person will look at that and say, Fuller, I heard what you're saying, but I'm going to call some names. And I'm going to say these things, okay? Well, just like I have freedom to say what I just said, never do this, they got freedom to say they ain't going to listen to me or nobody else. They're going to call some names. And so they can go ahead and do it. As far as the code says, see, I'm just following what I've written myself. See, now, if they do that, if they say that about Dr. Martin Luther King, they can say that and do that. If the white supremacist says it's okay for them to do it, because that's where I get my permission from.
Okay.
One more thing. What does VGQ mean? Grass question.
Victim,
what is VGQ?
That's a term that I shorten. VGQ means Victims Guaranteed Qualification. Now, having said that, I have it in the word guide in the textbook. What does that mean? Those words, just like you just asked. What does VGQ mean? Victims Guaranteed Qualification. Well, what does that mean? That means that if you're a victim of white supremacy, you are qualified to say anything about you being a victim that you want to say. Just that simple. If you are a victim,
get is the workbook. I got the others. Sorry.
Say what now?
Only thing I need to get is the workbook. I have the other two.
You mean the word guide?
Well, do you have the word guide?
I have the word guide. I have everyone but the workbook.
Look it
I don't
up.
have the one.
Look it up in the word guide. Victims Guaranteed Qualification. That's in there.
Okay, I got the compensatory code system content.
Look in the back of it, because it'll tell you that. It'll tell you whether or not. Wait a minute. It'll tell you whether or not. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm sorry. I had went up there.
Look in the back of the word guide. See, this is how it's done. We're supposed to be eliminating confusion on this program.
I know, right?
Look in the back and see if you see under V's and see if you see Victims Guaranteed Qualification.
Yeah, VGQ.
Now, it won't tell you the page number.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Now, that means that word is in the book. So in the same book, look under V and see if you see Victims Guaranteed Qualification.
I will.
Yeah. Let me ask a question. Yeah, let me ask a question before you go, Ebony. Mr. Fuller, when she asked about whoever these people are that were calling names to Martin Luther King and all that other stuff, could that also be considered what we talked about earlier in the show, the lack of justice, compensatory justice in the in the world, really, but the lack of compensatory justice that would cause them to say names like that?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yes, sir. I'm asking you. would that be considered that?
Well, the code says that in the system of white supremacy, everybody, let's get this straight right out the gate, everybody on the planet in the system of white supremacy, and that's the government of the entire world, is seriously flawed.
Mm-hmm.
So when people start talking about, that's what they're talking about, I guess, the flaws in Dr. Martin Luther King, the person who is talking about Dr. Martin Luther King is seriously flawed. Because there's nobody who's not seriously flawed on this planet in the system of white supremacy. That's impossible for you not to be. That's out of the question. You're going to be seriously flawed, and the evidence shows that you are seriously flawed because you are putting up with the system of white supremacy, which is guaranteed to make everybody seriously flawed.
Okay.
Now, that's either true or false.
Okay.
Now, everybody was seriously flawed, according to some sources, like what we call the Holy Bible, since the beginning of time. So if you start looking for anybody's flaws, everybody has tons of them. Nobody is the quality of person that a person ought to be. So when you start talking about somebody being flawed, there's a blues song that takes care of that. Oh, you accuse me, take a look at yourself.
Okay.
Talking about wrong. Better check with somebody else. Or something like that.
Okay.
Before you accuse me, see what? Well, and this is in the code. When you start talking about somebody else's flaws, first thing you should think about, how many do you have?
Yeah.
How many do you have? Have you ever counted your own? Okay. Now start with your own and then start counting somebody else's. That's what the code says do. When you start thinking about somebody else's flaws, and everybody's got them, the person that doesn't have a flaw and says they don't have a flaw is not telling the truth.
It's not telling
the truth. Which is the worst flaw you can have, is to say that you ain't got no flaws.
Okay. Ebony,
you probably got more than one or two.
Yeah, absolutely. Ebony, thank you so much for your call, and I don't want to tell you not to be a stranger. Thank you so much. Okay. All righty. Okay, Mr. Fuller. Let's see. I think I have one more. Let me see if I can pull this up. Yeah. This is a revisit, but it was a question from Teddy down in Gumptown, Alabama. Yeah, Alabama. Says, in the system of white supremacy racism, which circumstance is most regrettable? A non-white person going without any constructive results, or a non-white person with too many questions at all? I look forward to your response.
No such thing as too many questions until all problems are solved. That's the codified response. You keep asking questions until all problems are solved, which means you won't have no questions because you got all the answers to all problems. What is there a question about? Questions are about solving a problem that you don't know how to solve. That's why you're asking a question. Did the mail come today? Why did you ask that question? Because I'm looking for my mail. Well, here's your mail. I hand you your mail, problem solved. So there's no need to ask, did the mail come today? And did you receive it? See, there's two questions there. Did the mail come today? That's one question. The answer is yes. Well, where is it? That's another question. Right here. And he hands me the letter. And then I ask her another question. Was that all in the mail? And the person says yes. Now, I don't need to ask another question.
Yes, sir.
About the mail. Why? Because the problem is solved.
Okay.
But I'll keep asking questions as long as I'm looking for that mail. I keep hearing that I'm supposed to have it, and I don't have it. So you keep having questions about the mail until you get the mail. Problem solved. That was a problem, not getting the mail. Duh. Everything in basic codification, like everything basically in the universe, has a logic.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You just follow that logic. That's what the code is about. Don't follow Neely Fuller around the corner nowhere. Neely Fuller makes mistakes. Follow the logic of the universe, and you got code.
Okay. Question for you then. In all of the research that you have done over the years and different kind of things that you have heard, have you ever heard of this is just a question. Have you ever heard of the three popes or anything? Any information about the three popes?
The three popes?
Yeah.
Never heard the term.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the? Okay, that's good. Have you ever heard of the Orsini family?
Sunni family?
The Orsini, Orsini, Orsini family.
Not that I remember. I never heard of it.
Okay. All righty. That's all right. That's all right. Okay, just thought I would just throw that out there. I've done a little research on that, but I'm not ready to divulge that research that I've heard, but it was very interesting. Okay, well, we're coming to the end of the program, Mr. Fuller, so guess what? These last words, got about a minute to go, are going to be left to you. So, Mr. Fuller, have at it.
Stop accusing Americans of doing anything. Find out what person did whatever was done by name if you're going to accuse somebody. But be real cautious about accusing anybody of anything. In fact, the code says just stay away from accusations altogether. Yes. Ask questions. Ask questions. All right? That's the best approach to anything. That's, according to the code. I found that out by experimenting with that.
Oh, yeah.
Rather than make an accusation against anyone, white people, black people, anybody, just ask questions.
Okay.
And questions will do what? Questions and answers will, and this is my last word, solve all problems.
Okay.
Remember that. Every day, all day. Questions
all day, every
and answers.
I got to get this in, Mr. Fuller. Listen, everybody, Mr. Fuller will be on the Carl Nelson Show this Thursday from 8 to 10, Carl Nelson Show, and you can hear it here on our site at ProduceJustice.com. I was told
First
that
day of February.
Yeah, February. I'm sorry. Yeah, Mr. Fuller will be on there.
First day of February.
What is it now?
The first day of February.
The first day of February. Okay, got it. That's Thursday. This Thursday. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you, everybody. We made a lot of mistakes, but we'll try to get better. Thank you, everybody. Hopefully we'll see you next week. Okay. Bye-bye.